I'm Jason Lapidus, co-creator of Group of 7 and Peregrines, and I am on a mission. When I started making comics, I was not ready. So every day since then, I've been working on leveling up. Welcome, comics readers, makers, and fans. In this episode, I'm taking a look at Fantastic Four King Size Special number 6 from 1968 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Of course, I'll be focusing more on the Jack Kirby than the Stan Lee. And I want to see what I can learn to help me get closer to mastering the craft. Keep in mind, this is not intended to be an exhaustive examination of the text or its history, but a brief look at one or two of the elements of the work that I, and maybe you, can learn from. And don't miss out on the sped-up drawing session at the end. But before we dive in, you can support the channel by reading our books. 7 famous historical figures on a secret fictional mission to save the world. Group of 7, A Most Secret Tale. A team of spies undercover as frontline nurses defend against the unknown and unbelievable. Peregrines, Flights, Fiends, and Fisticuffs. Both for sale in print and digital formats on our site, group7comics.ca. There you can also subscribe to our newsletter and stay up to date on upcoming comics, appearances, and episodes. Thanks for your support. IDW, in partnership with Marvel in this case, produces these artisan editions. And they are scans of the original art printed in high quality. You can see the yellowing of the paper. And when we get close enough, we're going to be able to see quite a bit of the process marks. So this artisan edition collects many issues from around this time period. It's 1968. So this is a couple years after the Galactus trilogy, a couple years after as well. This Man, This Monster, which is a famous story, and the introduction of Black Panther and Wakanda. A quick comparison. When I was a kid and I wanted to first start drawing comics, I wanted to try and make this. I wanted to try and make a full color page, and I didn't really understand how human hands made this. There are corrections. There's whiteout all over the place. There are corrections all over the artwork. I was terrified when I started working with ink that every line was permanent, and this is another reminder that they are just not. Comics do not have to be perfect. It's actually impossible for them to be perfect, especially if you're making comics that are sort of worked on at a daily pace. At this stage, in 68, how Kirby and Joe Sinnott, are rendering Reed Richards. He is not bookish. He is not diminutive in any way. He is the full-on action hero of the series. He is the center point of it. Johnny is the kid's sidekick. Ben is his wisecracking, tough-as-nails best buddy. It doesn't hold up for all time, of course, but Reed is the boss of this series, and some panels really, really demonstrate that. And it's neat to see where he's been kind of recast as a more slender figure, more obsessed with, obviously, his projects, and in this series, he is the commander. Okay, another neat thing. It's often talked about, especially by Stan himself, that Stan is the writer. And the way our language uses that term, we consider writer to be a signifier of authorship. But if you look at these pages, Kirby's notes are here as he's drawing. He's writing notes as to what's happening in each panel. He's writing the story on the artboard. Sometimes he's even writing dialogue, and Stan can choose to either use or not use that dialogue. But Jack is explaining the story to Stan, not the other way around. And of course, not every comic book was made this way or made the other way. But at this point in 68, Jack Kirby is most likely, by all accounts, plotting out these issues himself. And then Stan is scripting them after the fact. So the author and authorship is an interesting and contested notion. Take a look. I'm going to turn this around. This image. I think this is my favorite Reed Richards drawing of all time. He's the commander. So cool. And he's not drawn bookish or pensive. He's drawn as the heroic lead actor in this comic book. His look reminds me a lot of the actor who played Captain Christopher Pike in the original pilot for Star Trek, this series back in the 60s. Kirby has drawn on this piece of artboard. Sinnett has inked it, just the characters. But Kirby has started working on these really interesting, strange collages where he's cutting out things from all kinds of magazines and newspapers. And he's trying to create a world that is like kind of beyond imagination. They create original pieces here, and they photostat them, cut them out, and paste up those figures onto these collages. And let's take a look how those things come out in the book. Unlike anything you'd see in other comics, I don't know if this is good or not, but it is interesting. This is an artist and an art team trying something, and I'm all for it. It's too bad that the technicians handling the original artwork back in the 60s cropped those pages because Kirby's notes and notes of any other people involved in this process, those are interesting cultural artifacts, and we could learn something from them. Ink work, even though it feels like a permanent step in the process, it is anything but. I can add white media to work all the time, and I can draw over that white media, and I can add white media on top of what I've redrawn as well. I can keep going. I can also completely crop out a panel or a figure and paste one in. I love how physically imposing Mr. Fantastic can be if you want to treat him in that fashion. Look at this, man. Look at that stance. That is the captain of the team. It's interesting seeing Kirby's work in 68 as well. You know, he's about a year or so away from quitting working with Stan Lee, leaving Marvel and going over to DC for a few years. But his evolution as an artist is in full swing, where he's going from a softer, more illustrative style in the 40s and 50s, and then into creating the look of Marvel and its dynamism in the early 60s. And he's getting more and more graphic, and his figures are getting slightly blockier. We're getting more of these kinds of poses where people are, have these larger blocky hands and blocky feet and more angular faces. As Kirby continues to move towards his abstraction, playing with those figures, I find his work more and more interesting. Here I can see the techniques that are being used to create a page like this, and it's easier for me to go from this to my own work, whereas when I'm looking at the printed, manufactured object, it's harder for me to see the human hand involved and understand how to apply those techniques used by artists like Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnett. They're like textbooks. Even at this reduced size, where it's not the full size of the original art, they are completely invaluable as learning tools for a person like me. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know which Reed Richards is the coolest in your opinion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Leveling Up. That's more than